So, I pissed off my friend Fitchyfulthinking because I had a very visceral reaction to the fact that he was bringing up the Book of Job in our YouTube community of Bible study. So, instead of going against the grain and just bringing up other parts of the Book of Job or other parts of the Bible to compare against the only 2 chapters that he wants to talk about, I decided, just like Violently Graceful obliged him, I'm going to oblige him by reading the Book of Job, just the first 2 chapters, and then I'm going to give you my reaction to certain things that I see as odd in the Bible. And I'm probably going to just cut out a lot of me just reading verbatim from this book. I'm pretty sure you all have a Bible at home, but I'll read from it and then I'll look up and I'll just tell you what's on my mind, Proper Bible study style. The Book of Job, chapter... Oh, wait a second. This is just the King James Version. This isn't any fancy version that I have behind me, or that Chris, Violently Graceful, has. He has some really nice Bibles. KJV, the Redneck Standard. Here we go. The Book of Job, chapter 1. There was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job, and that man was perfect and upright. Was it possible in this time for a man to be perfect and not be Jesus? I've heard, many times in my life from other learned people who read the Bible that the only man who was ever perfect that walked this earth was Jesus. Anyways. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. At this point in this book, when I come across sons, I'm wondering what kind of translation errors there could have been that somebody will try to rationalize that this book is saying that there are multiple gods or demigods. I'm just wondering, because maybe someone's thinking when they're reading this book with an unlearned eye that when he says sons of God, there was a whole bunch of people. Maybe that's what people are going to use to get their brain past this part without, having to deal with this book saying that there are multiple gods and that Yahweh is the strongest one. Verse 7. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? When I read that, it kind of reminds me of when Adam and Eve were hiding in the bushes and God couldn't find them when he's looking through, the Garden of Eden. As if he doesn't have this omnipresence, as if he doesn't, as if he's not omniscient, as if he can't just look with X-ray vision through the bushes, as if he didn't know where Satan was this entire time. Why would he have to ask Satan, hey, where have you been? Is he just fucking with people by asking them questions that he already knows the answers to? Verse 12. And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, all that he hath is in thy power. Only upon himself put not forth thine hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord. So is this saying that from that point on, God gets to wipe his hands clean of everything that happens to Job because he gave all the power over Job's stuff to Satan, you know? Because at any moment he could probably retract that from him and say, no, that's wrong. So I don't really see God in here as being blameless for anything that Satan does, because God at any point could intercede and say, okay, that's enough. But he lets Satan do all this stuff, and so it's only with his allowance that Satan gets to do these things. And so I'm still blaming God for this. I don't know. You? Verse 18. While he was yet speaking, there came also another, and said, Thy sons and thy daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. Verse 19. And behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness, and smote the four corners of the house, and it fell upon the young men, and they are dead, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. You know, at this point, I'm thinking, does Satan have the power to turn into winds that kill people? Or did Satan get God's power to kill people with winds? You know, the winds that God would normally command to kill people. Either way, I'm still blaming God at this point. And by my count, even though this is, you know, outside of just these two chapters, if you were to count from the beginning of Genesis all the way to here, this point, this would be the 130th instance of God condoning or causing an act of mass murder or murder. You know, I'm not counting all the people. I mean, how many could this have been? Somewhere between 10 and 50, I guess. The servants, the kids, you know, all the animals. Poor animals. You know, what did they do? Anyways, verse 22, the last verse of the first chapter. In all this, Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly. I have a ginormously huge problem with the Bible saying that Job didn't charge God foolishly. If he would have charged God and said, God, this is your fault. Why did this happen? You know, why aren't you looking out for me? He would have been, you know, if, you know, supposing God exists and everything that happens is, you know, within his power to stop or cause, you know, it would not be foolishly for Job to charge God. And, you know, unless God has this kind of personality where he doesn't like to be accused by people of things that he is pretty much guilty of. Know your role and shut your mouth. The book of Job, chapter 2, verse 1. Again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord. Now, when I read that, I get confused myself. And I don't mean to really go outside of these chapters, but here I go, you know, breaking Fitch's rules again, because for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. Why are there multiple sons in this chapter? You know, God's supposed to have just one son, and it's supposed to make that one son more important. Like, he didn't have another one to give; he only had the one, and that's the only one that he had when he died. You know. But apparently there's more. And having some Mormon friends, I know that verses like this are used to make the connection that perhaps Satan is also one of the sons of God, and that Satan is Jesus' brother. Does anyone else not see how that can be an interpretation? Job chapter 2, verse 2. And the Lord said unto Satan, From whence comest thou? Again, like he doesn't know where Satan's been. You know, that would piss me off if I were Satan. It's like, you fucking know! You know! You know where I've been! So, and Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and walking up and down it. And I like that answer on his part. You know, it's like a non-answer. Like, oh, I've been here, been there. Don't really want to say. 2 Job, verse 3. And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a perfect and upright man? Yeah. So, I'm wondering right there, yet again, how many people on the earth have been perfect? Because, you know, I'm from a religious upbringing that said only Jesus, just Jesus. A perfect and upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil. And I'm wondering, you know, how does a perfect man fear God when he should be loving God? I really, there's a lot of people who use the term God-fearing as if it means God-respecting. If he's in line with God, why would he have anything to fear? Moving on. Verse 7. So went Satan forth from the presence of the Lord, and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his foot unto his crown. So from head to toe, the dude was just covered in boils. And I'm still blaming God. You know, he's the one who gave Satan the power to do it, and said, and basically had the bet with him to do it. You know, kind of like the movie 10 Things I Hate About You, where the girl finds out in the end that the boy was only dating her, you know, because he was paid. You know, it doesn't matter if he fell in love with her, you know, while he was doing it. He in the beginning he was paid to do it. That's a wonderful analogy for this book, huh? 10 Things I Hate About You, the one of the worst teeny movies ever. So, on we go. Job chapter 2, verse 9. Then said his wife unto him, Dost thou still retain thine integrity? Curse God and die. But he said unto her, Thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. What? Shall we receive good at the hand of God, and shall we not receive evil? In all this did not Job sin with his lips. Okay, so Job's wife, completely understandably is telling Job, why don't you call out God for letting all this happen? And Job's response to this is, don't you expect to get evil from God as well as good? Yeah, well, if you're a good, perfect person, and God rewards things like that, I would expect Job to not get much evil, you know, or as little as possible, less than other people, you know, at least if fairness is to be maintained. The hell, this is a horrible book. So by the end, Job chapter 2 verse 13, the last verse that we're supposed to look at. So they sat down with him upon the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and none spake a word unto him, for they saw that his grief was great. So Job didn't just get all these bad things happen to him, his family, his livestock, and all this, but even his friends didn't speak to him. And I wonder if the devil had something to do with that too. Like, don't give him any comfort of people talking to him and trying to console him too. You know, and I wonder if God would have allowed the devil to keep the friends from speaking to him, and if we're supposed to read that much into it. And I guess that's it. Until Fitch wants to explore the next chapters of the book of Job. I find the first verse of chapter 3 right here kind of amusing. After this, Job opened his mouth and cursed his day. You know, like, oh, fuck, it's Monday. Shit. You know, and all the shit's been happening to me. And it's not because God or Satan or anything else. It's just, I've got a bad fucking case of the Mondays. Shit. You know? Anyways, so, please, Fitch, let me back into the Bible study. I read just the 2 chapters that you were talking about and gave my opinion of them.